You're listening to the Future Tech Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies such as artificial intelligence, stem cells, 3D printing, gene editing, Bitcoin, blockchain, the microbiome, quantum computing, virtual reality, and exploring space are much closer than you might think. In fact, many early versions of these technologies are in play right now, and the companies that are using these technologies are the focus of this podcast. My goal for you, the listener, is to learn from these podcasts. You may very well learn something that may change the course of your life for the better, steer you towards a new career, or give you insight into addressing a thorny medical problem. Remember, this podcast and its content is informational in nature only. No medical, tax, legal, financial, or psychological advice is being given. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please listen, subscribe, like, and tell your friends about it. Thank you. Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Future Tech Podcast. I have Noah Ginsburg, co-program director of Solar One. So Noah, thanks for coming. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me, Richard. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So tell me about Solar One.
Absolutely. So nonprofit Solar One was launched about 15 years ago with the belief that all New Yorkers have a role to play in our transition to clean energy. So we have three primary programs that empower folks here in New York and the greater New York community to participate in, to learn about sustainability and to actually advance sustainability here in the city. So we have a K-12 environmental education program that works in, we've worked in more than 800 public schools here in New York City. We have a green worker training program that trains folks in hard skills that help them get entry-level employment in building operations and maintenance, electrical, carpentry, plumbing, and solar installation. And then the program that I run is called Here Comes Solar. The Here Comes Solar program was founded with the goal of making the benefits of solar accessible to everyone. And we accomplish that by providing technical assistance to community groups and affordable housing providers and others that don't typically have access to the benefits of solar. And we work with those groups in particular to help them make solar projects happen.
Okay, so is the focus essentially teaching people in the communities how to sustain themselves, or is the focus solar specifically? It sounds like it's more general, but still useful. You know, all the skills needed, including the energy inputs, the job skills, et cetera, on how to be a sustainable community.
Yeah, we have those three distinct programs, and our Green Design Lab is our environmental education program that educates young people in sustainability and clean energy. Then we've got this lab in Long Island City, Queens, our green worker training facility where we do the hard skills training. And then Here Comes Solar is really, we basically work with buildings and community organizations to make solar projects happen. And that's most of my work is focused on Here Comes Solar. So our role, we'll work with, for example, an affordable housing cooperative here in the city. We'll meet with them to help them figure out, answer their questions about solar. We'll do a preliminary solar design for their building, put together a financial savings estimate. And then when they're ready to move forward with a project, we actually help them get bids from local solar installers. So we try to basically bring our technical expertise to affordable housing groups and others who don't really have the expertise already for how to do a project, and we help them make it happen.
Okay. So any examples of projects, like specific ones that you've helped shepherd, and what happened? What have they done for the community?
Yeah, sure. A few projects that we're particularly proud of. One of them is a campaign that we've been working on over the last 3 years to bring solar to affordable housing cooperatives here in New York City. There are a lot of buildings here in the city where they're income restricted affordable housing, but the buildings are actually owned by the residents. So we work with partners in Northern Manhattan. We're working with We Act for Environmental Justice, and then working with a citywide organization called UHAB, to basically organize these buildings and help them get solar installed. Since we started that program, we've helped 20 HDFC cooperatives, these affordable housing cooperatives, get solar installed. We've used a variety of different financing mechanisms, a bunch of creative ways to bring the benefits of solar to the shareholders, to the individual apartments. And we've also integrated workforce training and job placement into those projects. So we worked on a campaign with We Act for Environmental Justice in Northern Manhattan, where we organized the first multifamily solar purchasing group in the country. And so we got a bunch of buildings to go solar at the same time, jointly selected a solar installation company. And because that solar installer was getting a bunch of solar projects rather than just a one-off, they were willing to hire job trainees from the neighborhood. So we have folks that were looking for work, come through our training program that we do with We Act, and then get hired right out of the program to learn to install solar in their neighborhood.
Okay. Is this residential solar or commercial solar?
Yeah, those were multifamily projects. So definitely, I guess you could call it residential, but they're larger than what you might have on a suburban home. And then another project that we're particularly proud of is a project that we're doing with Uprose, an environmental justice group in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, and financing group called Co-op Power, which is actually a consumer energy cooperative. And that project, Sunset Park Solar, is a large community shared solar project. So community shared solar is a little bit different than a standard rooftop project. Most folks think to benefit from solar, you need to put it on your own roof. Community solar actually makes it possible for me. I'm a renter. I live in an apartment. With community solar, I can sign up to participate in a solar project, a large solar project that's on a warehouse roof somewhere else in the city.
Really?
So, yeah.
How would that work, by the way? Like, that's what I was going to ask you. What if I'm, if there's a building with like 20 units in it, do you approach the owner of the building, and then if they say, yes, we want solar, how do they work it out with the tenants? Like, what's an example of that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Normally when we work with building owners, those owners are really focused on offsetting the common area electricity, just because those are the bills that they're paying. So they reduce those bills, they save money. Community solar is different. You can put a big community solar project up, and then really anybody who is an electric customer in that utility can sign up for the project. And for us, that's exciting. Again, as a nonprofit, our mission is to expand access to solar. And when you think about who has access to solar, well, until community solar, literally no renter could benefit from solar. So we're excited about community solar because it makes it work for renters. We think about who could really use the savings most. Here in the city where so many folks are rent burdened, we just think reducing the cost of energy is really important. So the Sunset Park project is one where the city actually put out a request for proposals saying who wants to put a big solar project on our roof on the Brooklyn Army Terminal. And we put together a team to respond to that with our longtime partner Uprose and Co-op Power. And the way that we structured that project, we were selected by the city and we've negotiated a term sheet, and that project is moving ahead full steam. It's slated for installation later this year. And that project has a bunch of really exciting attributes. It's big enough to serve about 200 households. And Uprose is going to be doing all of the community engagement and finding folks that want to participate in the project. It's really going to be local to that Sunset Park neighborhood. So they're recruiting at the grocery store. They're recruiting members who are already engaged in their various initiatives and working through local houses of worship. And so it's really a community effort. And when folks sign up to participate in that solar project, not only are they going to be buying solar energy at a discount, saving a bunch of money on their electric bills, they're also going to become a member of the cooperative. So with Co-op Power, we're starting the New York City Community Energy Co-op, and Uprose is really helping to build that through their recruitment of folks in the neighborhood to participate. There are a lot of benefits to cooperative ownership, just beyond the utility bill savings. This co-op, we think, is going to be a really powerful platform for developing future energy projects and giving a lot of local control over how energy is generated and consumed. Last but not least on that project, we've the solar installation company that we're working with, 770 Electric, has agreed to hire 6 local residents that are going to come through our workforce training program to work on the installation. So that's just sort of another added benefit of that project that we're excited about.
So what do you mean when someone has ownership in it? Do they ownership meaning they get a certain percentage of the electricity generated from it forever, or ownership meaning like if they resell it to someone else, they get a percentage of profits, or like what do they own?
Yeah, that's a good question. So their subscription will entitle them to discounted solar credits, where the discount is going to be somewhere between 15 and 20%, and so they're going to get that discounted energy, and that's their subscription for as long as they're in the utility service territory. They can bring it with them when they move, all that. So that's theirs. But when we talk about community ownership, really the idea is that they are going to be a member of the cooperative that actually owns the system. So the cooperative will be the sponsor of the solar project, and as a shareholder in that cooperative, they'll have a vote over what's done with any profits. If the project were to generate, an operating profit, an operating surplus, the cooperative and its members would decide what to do with those funds. Do they put it into, reserves? Do they do a disbursement, a dividend to all of the shareholders based on their equity? Do they take those funds and use them to start their next energy project? So it's pretty dynamic how that's actually going to look. But the idea is that by most typically solar projects and even community solar projects are financed by companies that are really looking to maximize their return on investment, which makes sense. That's a normal business transaction. That's a good thing. But from the perspective of the environmental justice groups that we work with and a lot of the neighborhoods that we're working in, it's really a priority to develop projects in a way that maximizes local benefit and doesn't allow anyone to sort of profit off the project. So with the cooperative ownership structure, you kind of guarantee that the project is, really operated on a not-for-profit basis, which allows the co-op to maximize benefit for the participating households.
Okay. Do you have anyone that wants to participate and, not get the discount and have that, phantom money rolled over so that you can invest in another project?
That's interesting. We haven't proposed that yet. We've had a lot of interest. We have a lot of folks that are signing up. And if you're listening to this and you live in Sunset Park, it's not too late. You can still sign up. There are spaces available, but we've been promoting it as a 15 to 20% discount. I guess in theory, a few years down the road, the co-op could vote to increase their own rates. They would be able to do that. I don't foresee that happening, but this is one of the exciting things about having sort of local democratic control over energy is that these ideas are possible. When you look at a typical solar project development model or traditional energy service companies and how they operate, consumers don't really have that much power, and this is really flipping that on its head and putting the consumer in the driver's seat.
Any drawbacks to solar? Again, what do you do at night? Do you have solar batteries to store energy? Is it really only for the day when the offset comes? And what about in the winter, when there's not a lot of sunlight or as much?
That's a really good question. So when you install solar or you sign up for a community solar project, at least in New York and in most places, you're still going to get a lot of your power from the electric utility. But the way that it works is that you're going to get during the daytime in the summer and spring, you're going to get more solar energy than you consume, and you're going to build up credits that you can use at night and on those cloudy days and in the winter. So typically when you sign up for solar or you put solar on your roof, you're really looking at your annual electricity usage, and you try to get close to offsetting that your annual usage. It might be that in December, you're still getting most of your power from the utility, but then in April and May, you're probably actually producing more power than you're consuming. So the idea is it balances out.
That's what I was going to say. So, like, I guess to be funny, I'm not literally getting the electrons, generated at at the solar facility. I'm getting them from my utility company. And so, is this how it works? That you generated the solar power, you sell it back to the electricity company. The electricity company says, "All right, now we're going to credit this person 15 to 20%. They're still getting the power literally from us, but there's that credit because you sold some back to the grid. It's not literally the power you generate that the person's using, is it?"
That's right. So if I sign up for a community solar project, 5 miles away from where I live, those electrons are not going to be sent to my house or my apartment. They're going to be sent out onto the grid, and they're going to be used by whatever the closest appliance or load kind of consuming energy is, and then really that's on the back end, the utility is managing the accounting and making sure that credits are distributed. So when you sign up for a community solar project, really what that community solar project owner is doing is they're allocating a percentage of the solar that's generated to you, and then they tell the utility, and the utility manages the credits.
Okay. Do people know that, or do they care?
Yeah, I think part of what we do when folks sign up for community solar for the various projects that we work on is we educate them and we answer these questions. We really want to make sure that folks know what they're signing up for and that they're on board and really get it. And again, I think that one of the things that I think is great about community solar is that there's a real project in your local utility that's producing power, and you get a portion of that power. So, there are a lot of green energy options where you're buying 100% wind or 100% hydro. And what that really means is that there's an energy service company that's buying renewable energy credits from wind farms in Idaho or, old hydroelectric plants somewhere else in the country. This is really local, and anyone who signs up is really making a meaningful contribution because the solar project really can't happen without folks participating.
Yeah, that's interesting. How do you know when a project is sold out? Let's say your Brooklyn facility can produce the equivalent of power for 1,000 units. Mm-hmm. Do you have do you go up to 1,000 subscribers and you're done, or can you go more subscribers? They just get I don't know, maybe they get a lower rate of return or something. Like how does it work?
Yeah, so if there's more interest in a project and there are slots available, most solar project developers will maintain a wait list, so that when people do decide to move away from New York, and you can bring your subscription with you if you move within the city, but if you move to Canada, you have a different utility, you can't bring your subscription. So these projects do typically maintain a wait list, and something that we're doing at Solar One through our Here Comes Solar program is we're working with a lot of different groups that are developing projects. We have some that we're very involved in, like the Sunset Park Solar Project, and like another low-income community solar project we're doing with the utility here, Con Edison, and the New York City Housing Authority. So we have some projects like that where we're really driving it. And then we have other projects where we're really just helping connect folks to those projects. So, if one project fills up, don't despair. There are many more. And we see community solar as an area where there's going to be a lot of growth over the next several years. So for folks who are interested, now is a really good time to sign up, or at least to learn more information. And we think there's going to be more opportunities.
So I see the attraction. It's local, again, solar, renewable, et cetera. What about the units or the homes that sign up for the project? Do you also encourage them to install, additional energy saving type devices? Maybe Nest, let's say, to reduce their other bills when they're out of the house, or do you try to take it further and try to integrate them even more into a renewable system?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we're very supportive of energy conservation and efforts that where folks can reduce their utility bills. Absolutely. And when we work with buildings, for like if we're working with an apartment building, and we're helping them look at solar, we'll also refer them to programs that'll help them look at energy efficiency for the whole building. And when we work with an individual who signs up for community solar, what I'd say is absolutely, LEDs, and anything that you can do to reduce your energy consumption is a positive for the environment and positive for your wallet.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there's different levels within the program. Yeah, because the people that sign up for the program probably are people that would, be much more predisposed to these other things to help them save energy and to reduce their carbon footprint. So it just seems like a natural progression to say, hey, you want to take this further. Here's some other relationships we've developed with, again, with like, I don't know, just throwing out names like Nest or whoever to further reduce your energy bill and to further help people.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And our program, I'd say we're doing that at the building level, and we could definitely be doing more of it at the individual renter level. So if you're listening to this and you have a solution that can help renters reduce their energy bills, reach out.
Yeah, and then as again, if I was the owner of a building, like you said, I pay the bill for the common space electricity, but does it work economically? Let's say again, I had a 15-unit building and I put solar in the whole thing. Does it work numerically for me to do that? Would my apartments then be more attractive to people where, now they have no electricity bill and maybe their rent goes up slightly, but they still get some benefit?
Yeah,
is there a way for that to work mathematically?
I think that's a really smart model. We've done a lot of solar projects where solar's going on the roof and it's distributed among apartments, but typically it's in a co-op building where the co-op kind of represents all of, everyone's an owner. So there's no sort of misalignment of incentives. We haven't seen that too much for rental buildings, although certainly with master metered rental buildings where the landlord is paying an electric bill for everyone and then sub-metering them. In that case, the landlord could, really benefit from putting a big solar array on the roof. So there are a lot of ways to do it. And a lot of the work that we do through the Here Comes Solar program is we work with building owners to help them figure this stuff out and figure out what's going to make the most sense for their building's configuration, for their metering, for their financial situation.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, Noah, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Again, people local to you, how can they take action? And then people non-local, what if they want to talk to you about collaboration or, get some more information or visit a website? What kind of resources for both groups?
Yeah, absolutely. So we first, if you're based in Sunset Park and you want to sign up for the Sunset Park Solar Project, visit sunsetparksolar.org. If you are a New Yorker or in North Jersey and you're interested in solar for your building and you want help, or you're a renter and you want to sign up for a community solar project, you can check out our website, herecomesolar.nyc. And if you just want more general information about our organization, you can visit solar1.org. That's SOLAR, the number 1.org.
That's great. Well, Noah, thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard. Take care.
You're listening to the Future Tech Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies such as artificial intelligence, stem cells, 3D printing, gene editing, Bitcoin, blockchain, the microbiome, quantum computing, virtual reality, and exploring space are much closer than you might think. In fact, many early versions of these technologies are in play right now, and the companies that are using these technologies are the focus of this podcast. My goal for you, the listener, is to learn from these podcasts. You may very well learn something that may change the course of your life for the better, steer you towards a new career, or give you insight into addressing a thorny medical problem. Remember, this podcast and its content is informational in nature only. No medical, tax, legal, financial, or psychological advice is being given. If you enjoyed the podcast, please listen, subscribe, like, and tell your friends about it. Thank you.